Tonight, we've learned the Minnesota Department of Vehicle Services has paused issuing certain commercial driver's licenses. And it comes after federal officials say a review found 1/3 of CDLs in the state were issued illegally to people who should not be behind the wheel.
U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is giving Minnesota 30 days to revoke problematic licenses and threatens to withhold $30 million in federal funding. Joe Mason has reaction from the state and the trucking industry.
Interstate Truck Driving School in West St. Paul.
You're turning, now you want it to go back straight.
Trains the next generation of truckers to hit the road.
We focus on safety. That's our number one priority.
Campus Director Bill Collins knows his industry is making headlines. Do these allegations surprise you?
There's been fraud in our industry for decades. So it's nothing new to me that there's allegations of fraud. It's nothing new to me that there's unsafe drivers out there.
Federal officials threatened to withhold more than $30 million in federal highway funding after finding issues with commercial driver's licenses.
What we found is there have been states that have issued commercial driver's license to foreigners, and they've gone through sham schools, and they're not safe on American roadways.
U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says 1/3 of commercial driver's licenses in Minnesota were issued illegally due to an invalid work permit or the state never verified a driver's immigration status.
Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota gave 33% of these licenses unlawfully. People that should never have a driver's license driving a big rig on American roads, endangering the American people, shameful.
Governor Walz fired back.
As far as the DOT on commercial driver's licenses, we follow the laws we always have. No different than any other state. We've been notified of it. We looked at it. My statement on this is we are following the law exactly as it's written, exactly as we implemented it for decades.
And this who Kamala Harris wanted to run
because
for
these
a
allegations
VP.
are coming out so quickly.
Another corrupted devil.
I tend to, this is a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. So I'd like to see more of a deep dive on these issues to see if something actually is going on.
All types of fraud going on in Minnesota.
Secretary Duffy has also threatened to pull federal funding from California and Pennsylvania over this same issue.
Facts.
In Minneapolis, Joe Mason, 5 Eyewitness News.
Transportation is threatening to pull nearly $75 million in federal funding from Pennsylvania after federal regulators concluded the state improperly issued CDLs to non-U.S. residents without verifying immigration status. Federal officials say the findings took on new urgency after ICE recently arrested a man suspected of terrorism who was living in the U.S. unlawfully and had been issued a Pennsylvania CDL earlier this year. To avoid losing federal highway and safety funds, the Department of Transportation is ordering Pennsylvania to halt all issuance of new, renewed, transferred, or upgraded non-domiciled CDLs and commercial learner's permits, as well as conduct a full internal review to determine how many licenses were improperly issued.
Has attracted substantial political attention and administrative controversy. The Trump administration announced that it would withhold $75 million in federal funds from Pennsylvania unless the state takes immediate steps to correct what federal officials describe as widespread irregularities in its commercial driver's license system following the arrest of an Uzbek truck driver in Kansas who allegedly had connections to terrorism and was found to possess a Pennsylvania-issued commercial driver's license. This action follows repeated warnings from State Senator Jarrett Coleman of Allentown, who had previously cautioned state leadership that Pennsylvania's licensing protocols were increasingly vulnerable to misuse, and that federal authorities were growing impatient with what they considered lax enforcement of verification rules. Governor Josh Shapiro, in response, asserted that the problem originated from errors within federal databases maintained during the Trump administration, insisting that the presence of the suspect's name in a federal registry of non-citizens with work permits did not necessarily signify his immigration status or legal eligibility, a point disputed by the Department of Homeland Security, which argued that such records exist precisely to flag possible violations. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, in a formal communication to the Shapiro administration, stated that a review conducted by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, determined Pennsylvania had issued non-domiciled commercial licenses in ways that contravened federal safety rules, with licenses having been improperly granted to individuals whose immigration credentials were either unclear or unverifiable. Duffy maintained that under President Trump's renewed focus on federal compliance, national highway safety, and border control, the administration would take every necessary step to ensure that individuals residing in the United States unlawfully are not operating heavy commercial vehicles that could pose significant public safety threats. In correspondence later obtained by reporters, Duffy informed Governor Shapiro and Pennsylvania's Transportation Secretary Michael Carroll that the FMCSA had made a preliminary finding of non-compliance, emphasizing that Pennsylvania must immediately halt the processing of all new or renewed non-domiciled commercial licenses and learner permits until a comprehensive internal review could guarantee conformity with federal standards. The letter further required the state to identify and revoke any licenses that were granted contrary to federal policy and to examine documentation procedures to confirm that proof of lawful presence is verified through federally approved systems such as the Department of Homeland Security's SAVE database. While federal authorities framed the decision as a necessary measure to protect motorists and strengthen oversight of commercial licensing, Pennsylvania officials, including PennDOT spokesperson Alexis Campbell, countered that the state has consistently followed federal verification requirements and that its use of the SAVE database ensures all non-citizen applicants provide valid documentation before any license is issued. Campbell noted that PennDOT had already paused the issuance of non-domiciled licenses earlier in the year and fully cooperated with federal audits, which, according to her, failed to reveal any improperly issued licenses. Nevertheless, critics within the state legislature, including Senator Coleman and House Minority Leader Jesse Topper, accused the governor's administration of negligence, arguing that the case involving the Uzbek driver demonstrated not a bureaucratic oversight, but a systemic failure with potential national security implications. Both lawmakers demanded accountability and further investigations, with Topper calling for inquiries by the state's Attorney General and Auditor General into how an individual allegedly in the country illegally was able to acquire both a real ID and a commercial license. Federal and state agencies, meanwhile, continue to expand joint operations to inspect commercial trucks at weigh stations and border checkpoints, scrutinizing foreign drivers for compliance with English language standards, proper documentation, and conformity with federal transportation laws as the administration reiterates its intention to link highway safety policy with stricter immigration enforcement.